Yo, welcome back to the No Level Cap podcast. This week, we're talking about our favorite things of 2024. So come check it out. Yo, what's good, people? We're back with the No Level Cap podcast. I am your host, Sage Ashford, with my co-hosts, Rakeem Beck, Devin Butts, Will Coleman, and Terrence Flowers. Like I said, this week we're covering our favorite things of 2024. Now, usually podcasts will cover video games or anime, and it'll just be like, oh, our favorite anime, or oh, our favorite video games, or whatever. But we record once a week, and quite frankly, all this look back stuff need to be wrapped up by the middle of the month. So with that in mind, we're condensing all our favorite stuff into one single mega podcast, whether that's anime or video games or movies or comic books, albums, or whatever it is, whatever we want. So without wasting any time, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Terrence, what was one of your favorite things of 2024?
For me, anime wise, even though I didn't keep up with a ton of anime throughout 2024, honestly, the beginning of 2024 is when I kept up with the most. I think I had the most series that I was watching, but over the course of the year, I kind of picked maybe one or two shows to stick with, and that was kind of it. That's really been the trend of my anime watching throughout the year. But there's actually two anime that I have that I'll say were my favorites of the year. And there's still tons that I actually have not watched. I hadn't even tapped into ReZero season 3, and I'm a huge ReZero fan, so that lets you know that I'm definitely behind on stuff. But for me, the two anime that I really enjoyed this year, one, Solo Leveling. Solo Leveling for me probably would hands down be my favorite anime of the year, just because it was such a roller coaster. Power fantasy anime are nothing new, and they're a dime a dozen. We've talked about this when we did our episode on Solo Leveling earlier this year, funny enough. And power fantasy anime are nothing new, and a lot of them are very generic. And it feels like Solo Leveling, while it's not doing anything necessarily mind-blowing or total revolutionary, it's the way that it kind of approaches its main character and its story and the world building that just makes it so interesting. And the thing is, you really get to see the main character Jinwoo kind of start from the bottom, where he's just this E-class or whatever they call them type heroes, and he had nothing going for him, essentially, to him falling into this this situation that allowed him to get the abilities that he has, and you just watch him grind his way up. It's pretty much like watching a video game, and the animation is really cool. The music, just the production quality of it is just very well done. And like I said, while it's nothing game-changing or new, it's just a really fun show to watch. And every single episode just felt like it just upped the ante and just made it more enjoyable to watch as the weeks went on. So yeah, Solo Leveling for me probably would be my favorite anime of the year and just one of my favorites to watch. I definitely need to tap into season 2. I know that just started I think last week.
It's on episode 2.
Okay, yeah,
as of today.
So. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the other one for me on the other side of the spectrum that's has nothing to do anything shonen related or battle shonen in any kind of way is a Sign of Affection. This one, I feel like a lot of people toward the end of the year didn't talk about quite as much. A lot of the big list of anime, the best of the year, I don't think I've seen it on a lot of them, but I feel like this one was really good in that it was really doing something different, in that you have a protagonist that's hard of hearing. You have actual sign language in the show. Well, let me backtrack. For those that don't know what Sign of Affection is about this girl that's going off to college, and she's hard of hearing, so she actually uses sign language, which is something you don't see really almost in any medium, let alone anime. So the fact that you see it in an anime like this is really cool. All the characters are early college age, so that's already different. That pulled me in and of itself was the fact that you're seeing actual adults and not just teenagers. And of course it's a love story. She meets this guy who's really well traveled, and they end up falling in love, getting together, and it's really about them just continuing to watching the growth in their relationship, the guy, him learning how to sign, learning more about her, she learns more about him. And it's just a really wholesome anime. It's just one of those that just you watch with a nice smile on your face. You know, if you have a significant other, then it's one of those that you can sit and watch with them and, you know, have a good time, or you just watch by yourself. Like, it's totally fine to do so. And it's a fun show. But yeah, for me, those two would be my favorite anime of the year, Sign of Affection and Solo Leveling.
Okay, those are great picks.
Oh, yeah.
Devin, what's your first favorite thing of 2024?
It's a lot to choose from. What do I want to start with? Actually, I think I'm gonna say Marvel Infinite and Beyond. Just the fact that like Max is what Max did for that game is absolutely insane. We already saw what was being done with UMVC 3 with the palette swap stuff. Like the game has like a boatload more characters in it. Now, I don't know. We're probably approaching 70 to 100, right? I don't know, but it's kind of insane. But to see what he like, for somebody to look at a game, be like, man, this game had potential. It could have been great. Let's make that what it should have been. You know, and it's kind of it's unfortunate because we see too much of this nowadays with games that come out, and we can usually tell that it's suits that are making decisions. I mean, we saw it with MK1, and it was obviously done with MVCI. That game was not up to par visually, content-wise, story mode, on pretty much on every level except gameplay. The characters were like lacking, but for Max to get a group of people and to give this game a whole new look. When I first saw he was like, okay, we're gonna give the characters new models and stuff. We're gonna make the game look different. I'm like, oh, that's dope. Then he was like, no, we're gonna do that. We're gonna put new music in. We're gonna do balance changes, and then we're gonna do a new character. I'm like, so y'all just making a whole new game at this point. Like, and to see that type of passion and love for a game, I'm gonna be honest. If I was Capcom, I'd probably like give Max some position. Like, bro, like you did this, you headed this. That means like he has the potential to do something. Like, let him work on Marvel 4 at this point. Like, let him in a group of people that worked on this. Let him work on Marvel 4, because like that level of dedication and passion for that, him like putting money out of his own pocket. Like, I think upwards of, I think he said like 80 grand or something like that. Some pretty big number. I'm like, that's a lot, you know.
That's really passion to put your money where your mouth is like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's, you know, this is probably something that I don't even know if we've ever. This might be the first time we've ever seen it, because UMVC 3 was cool, but it wasn't to this level. Like, they didn't change character models. They did. I mean, well, adding characters and putting new movesets in the game, that's actually pretty impressive in itself. But just like overhauling the whole game, like going from like maybe a handful of people playing into like 3,000 for a game that's this old, for a game that basically came out and just fell off the planet, just fell off the earth. Besides from the people that were actually dedicated to playing the game, I just think that deserves you know, some recognition for that. So that's definitely one of my favorite moments of like then finally playing it. I was like, this man is literally remaking this game. Like, not a studio remaking it, like a fan, a person that loves fighting games so much is like, hey, I'll remake it myself. Like, that's awesome, man. So that's
Fine,
definitely one of my favorite moments. Yeah, you know. I mean, y'all know I'm a big Marvel head, so just seeing that, like, I download it, runs smooth. It looks so good. It's like, man, this is what the game should have looked like in the first place, you know. But yeah, like Max said, I do it myself, man. So I definitely one of my favorite moments of 2024, man.
All right. Will, what about you, man?
Most of my time been spent on the sticks in 2024. Trying to play games. I actually beat up 15 games last year, so I'm hoping I'm hoping to knock out a few more this year, a few more than 15 this year, if possible, because I got a lot of shorter games. But I got one long game that really took me away. Metaphor Refantasia. 106 hours slid into this game. I spent 30 of them streaming them, but I said, you know what? This needs to be a me thing now, because I don't need to finish doing this in front of people. I could do this myself. And it has some of the most like engrossing characters, like great art style. Everything about it from the menu on down is amazing. The designs of these archetypes are insane. It feels like they just kind of slid like Persona Square onto the characters, and I'm just like, that is really cool. Plus, all the little cool references to their like past like series are like hidden all throughout the game. If you pay close enough attention to them, and if you play their games, you'll catch those references. I love the gameplay. Everything about it. The music is awesome. I still need to take the soundtrack out of here and actually put it on this computer so I can actually listen to it more. Love the battle themes. Everybody know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's a really amazing game. I've seen a lot of people finally catching on to it like this year, like finally starting to put it in their system this year. Some picked it up and it was like, yeah, this game is looking good. And then some people are just like, okay, this a lot. I don't know if I can do it. But Metaphor ReFantazio, one of the best RPGs, in my opinion. I considered it my game of the year, even over Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I beat that early in the year, 100 and something hours earlier in the first half of the year. So it was kind of like a odd coin toss up between those two. But I love Metaphor ReFantazio. I'm intending on doing a new game plus run one of these days, just so I can get the rest of the stuff that I may have missed and finish up some of the bonds. It's an amazing game, and I hope Atlas can find some more time to do another really good one. I don't know what they intend on doing when they do it, but I'm looking for it. I'm here for it.
Hey, the world will be waiting.
Knowing Atlas, I mean, I assume Persona 6 is next. That makes the most sense
too,
but I mean, you know, they like to get everything they can out of a new IP or out of an IP. So
I was going to ask, like, do you all think that there will be like a Metaphor, reload edition, something like that?
Someone did make us a point to say they might mess around and make a Metaphor ReFantazio. What's it called? I think they say it will be either Fully Awakened or Fully Realized edition, something like that, something along those lines. To kind of go with the theming of the game. So yeah,
they seem to do that with all of their video games that just have like some kind of like additional third story or some shit like that, and like add a character and add a whole new area and shit. It seems likely. Or they might just give you a Metaphor Warriors or something like that.
Yeah, or maybe bring back some cut content because people been kind of scanning through the game and they found like some places where there were characters that were supposed to have had something, and I'm just like, oh, there's quite a bit of stuff that got cut out. This could lead to an expanded version later if they decide to do so.
I mean, I'm sure it would also just sell hella copies and take that shit to another height. So it wouldn't surprise me.
I would love it.
So one of my favorite things of 2024 kind of came towards the back half of the year. It was this independent comic book called The Power Fantasy by Kieran Gillen and Caspar Wingard. At least I think that's how his name is pronounced. There's like a J in there. I'm not as sure. I got to cut me a little slack on that one. But yeah, like I said, independent comic from Image. It just deals with the idea of power fantasies and like power levelings and how dangerous that would be in real life. Like, we always talk about like Omega level mutants and, oh, look how powerful this person is and this, that. And people like the guy that wrote X-Men for a while, and he would constantly get letters and like, well, not letters, but like emails and tweets and stuff talking about, oh, I want to see these characters fight. And he was like, hold on. If some of these characters fought for real, there would be nothing left of Earth. And so he decided to write his own comic book where he was like, all right, I get to just play with the idea of like, we've got these supers. And in their universe, a super is somebody that wields enough power to surpass America's nuclear arsenal. And there's like a half dozen of them. 6 people with that kind of power level, and the entire series is how, despite all these people having vastly different viewpoints and beliefs, how they manage to avoid fighting each other. And so, like, it's just a brilliant series. The world building is great. Like, the world building is so good that I'm already pulled in, and it's only 5 issues long so far. And it's so character driven that the writer can literally spoil events. Like, he's given us a timeline as of like issue 3. Issue 3 gives you a rough timeline of events, because everything takes place from like about 1950 to the year 2000. We don't know what happens in the year 2000, that's the cutoff point, but that was just like his goal. Like, okay, the cutoff point is 2000. And so like everything is so character driven that he can show you what happens in that timeline, and like you don't care. because it doesn't matter. Like being told, okay, this happens in 1989 and it's a big deal. It's like, okay, well, I need to see what happens. I need to see how this plays out and how it affects the characters. And it is like a deconstruction of superheroes. And it is, which is normally not my thing. And it's still quite cynical of the world and what superheroes could actually do with their powers. But it's not like Watchmen. Watchmen had this thing of feeling almost like spiteful of superheroes. And this isn't that. Like, it's not spiteful. It's just reality. It's like, oh, okay, well, if you have a guy that is hard right and works for the government and it's like, hey, we're just going to go do this and we're going to start wars. And what are you going to do about it? And then all the other supers are like, this guy is going to cause a problem if we let him stay around. And so they just turn him into a fucking meatball. And like, there's shit like that. Or there's like a guy that's far left and he's like, hey, man, I'm going to take my giant floating city. And this is like the inciting incident of the first issue. I'm going to take my giant floating city over America because what the fuck is America going to do to me? And so when America strikes back at him, he's like, well, I'll tell you what, how about I take Texas and fling that bitch into the sun? What you going to do about that? And to see how all the characters go like, oh, whoa, how do we stop this from going out of control and ruining everything? It's like, man, it's just so captivating. And every issue, I'm like, I need more of this. I need more of this. And like the best compliment you can give any comic book is by the time you get to the end, you're like, I feel like I didn't read anything. I feel like it's over so quickly that I just like, oh man, it feels like it was just 5 pages or something like that. And that's what it feels like every issue. And so I'm deeply in love with that comic book right now. Can't wait to see where it goes going forward.
What was it called
again? Rakeem, the Power Fantasy.
The Power Fantasy.
Rakeem, what's your first favorite thing?
My first favorite thing from 2024 has to be just a large variety of hip hop I got to listen to. Last year, I made a concerted effort to listen to a lot of new projects, some of which by artists I've already liked for a very long time. But I think hip hop last year was so much more fun. We got to start off, early in the year with the Drake Kendrick beef that kind of incited people to like this big moment where we were listening to tracks every other day, discussing them. I was talking about them at work. I was talking about you guys at home, waiting to see the responses. And then, it culminated at the end with Not Like Us. And then, was it the Heart Part 6 at the end? And
Ew.
I just never forget that moment. Like, it was just so fun.
Yeah,
it was just so
good.
fun to listen, to just be a fan of hip hop in that moment. And no other genre can do this. No other genre can make you feel like that in these moment-to-moment versus battle. Hip-hop just has that competitive nature to it by its very nature. But I just want to go through some of the projects I really like this year because I think there's a lot of good hip-hop from 2024. Starting off, I'll go with Lupe Fiasco's Samurai. A nice A project, tight, fun, lyrical masterclass with like some really melodic beats and like a cadence and flow. I don't think there's any wasted fluff here. I think they all do what they need to do. And the project from top to bottom is really solid to me. I had this on rotation for over a month or two. I'll give Denzel Curry, King of the Mischievous South Volume 2, the complete polar opposite of Samurai. Just like banger tracks, like Memphis, Atlanta, banger tracks, like hype, high-end, hip hop that makes you kind of want to dance and move and like get hype. Denzel has like this strong cadence and voice that makes you just want to just bob your head. He's like the rock star version of a rapper. He's like it's just high intensity all the time. I gotta give a shout out to Dark Times by Vince Staples. This album I listened to that was just like it's like the whole album wants you to be introspective. It doesn't go up. It doesn't go down. It's like this one cadence the entire time. And it's all the tracks are very introspective and make you think about things. So I thought that was really, really popular. J. Cole, although I ain't gonna say he had the greatest year, I think he ended it strong. He had Might Delete Later, the mixtape, which, was kind of up and down. People kind of liked some tracks, thought some tracks were kind of the Kendrick disc was on there. He took that off. We all remember that. But he closed the year with a Forest Hills Drive Deluxe Edition release. Forest Hills Drive was one of my favorite J. Cole albums. One of my favorite hip hop albums ever. I've listened to that album so many times. And he brought out Deluxe Edition with 8 new tracks that were unreleased from 10 years ago. And they all added to it very well and were really good. I like those. Going along with that, I also include some R&B stuff and some, general singing. In Pathogen by Willow Smith. I really liked that project. Yeah. She's I think she's getting better and better every album. I think she's doing a great job with that. I'll give Lana Deluxe by SZA that came out at the end of the year. Had some really good tracks on there. Had the 30 for 30. I listen to that track every day. Childish Gambino came out with Lithonia, the end of an era kind of track where he finishes the story on his character Childish Gambino, gives a good mix of hip hop and R&B. There's a lot of tracks on here I really messed with. I actually enjoyed this project a lot. Perfect Fantasy by Earth Gang. I think this album is super slept on. I would recommend anybody listen to it. There's 3 tracks I know for sure I'll still listen to a lot: Osmosis, Deep Blue, and Blacklight. And this is like just more like if you were more of like on the Outkast kind of trend, more of the singing era of Outkast. But like the vibe of those tracks, like the jazziness, the flow of it, like their flow, their energy on these tracks, it's really cool. You can listen to this stuff in the background at your house. It's a vibe. I really recommend Perfect Fantasy. I think it's slept on. Nobody ever talks about it. Some other projects I'll include: TD Blue Lips by Schoolboy Q. Yeah, and Soul Burger by Absol, both good projects. Blue Lips is actually on many people's list as the best hip hop album of 2024. It's not on my personal one, but a lot of hip hop heads love this album. It's kind of like the hardcore hip hop fans album of 2024. I saw a lot of people with Blue Lips on there. And of course, GNX. Got to talk about GNX. I love GNX. Kendrick, what a 2024 he had. Well, Not Like Us in the diss tracks, getting the Super Bowl, and then closing the year with GNX, which is an album which is really good. I remember listening to it. When you listen to an album for the first time, you're just like going through 7 tracks and like, I don't want to skip none of this. This is all good. Like that's when you know you on to something positive. There's some other projects I never got to. Doechie's Alligator Kisses, I think the name of her album. I need to finish that album. Never Heal. Alligator Bites, sorry, that's it. I need to listen and finish that album. I only listened to a little bit of that. Lil Baby dropped an album called Wham, which actually did okay. And Don Toliver had a project earlier this year I didn't really get deep into that some people really liked. But yeah, just as a whole, I just really like 2024 hip hop. Me and Say used to discuss all the time how we would listen to different tracks and new music and be like, I don't like where hip hop is going. I don't like the trends that are going on. The popularity of hip hop has gone down over the years. It's not really the big genre it used to be 10 years ago. And just seeing like in 2024, it felt like that was a response. Like everybody came with something solid from a variety, new artists, old artists, people in the middle of the road. And there's just such a variety of good music here that I think we can't just overlook 2024. I think in the annals of time, if you really pay attention to the music that came out, this was a good year. So if you are even slightly interested in any of these albums or any of these artists, please listen to some of this hip hop. It's really good. Give it a chance. So that was my favorite part of 2024 for music.
He got through all of that and didn't even mention Tyler's album, which is also excellent.
Oh yeah, Cornucopia. What's crazy is because I listened to that probably more than most of the tracks on. Yeah, Chromacopia, because I was thinking about time, but Chromacopia was also really good. That was also a really good project. Yep.
So let's get to the second wave. That was a great choice. Just picking rap music as a whole, I didn't see that coming, but it does make sense because I mean, like you were throughout the year bringing up like all these great rap albums, and I'm in a weird spot because I don't get to listen to music as much as I want to now. Like I'm at home, I work from home, and so like I can't listen to music and work at the same time. I used to listen to music a lot in transit. Whenever I'm walking somewhere, whenever I'm, in on a bus or something like that, I used to do that a lot. And so I used to listen to a ton of music. I don't get to do it as much anymore. But I did take down a list of albums that I plan on just trying to go through in January while there's not too much going on musically. But I appreciate you bringing that up. Will, what's your second one?
Second favorite thing coming out of 2024. Now, it is an anime. I'm pretty sure it's in the shonen area, but I'm going to go ahead and just say it now. Kaiju number 8 was something I really, really enjoyed.
Great
simply
choice.
Simply because I love the lead character. I love Hibino Kafka because he's practically in my age range. I feel like he's a bit of a bumbling idiot, and that's what he kind of comes off as. But he's given powers, and he has to understand how to use them. But it's also showing him in a way. I like the way the show is showing him in a way that time is not up for you yet just because you've hit this age. You can still do something if you want to. There's something here for you to do. You can get there. Just take your time and work at it. Even though you may have a cheat code on your hand like he do, and he kind of can't let nobody else see it because if they see it,
Trouble.
Gotta send them up the river after that. So yeah, Kaiju number 8, I think is really fun to watch, and it's really great for adult anime watchers because it's not featuring strictly, your early 20s, late teens, or high school kids. It's not showcasing that. It's showcasing someone who has been struggling to go from point A to point B. He wants to do this one thing, he can't get it done, but through some miraculous circumstances, he gets the powers to do so. He's in the position he wants to be in, and he is trying his ass off to get there because he know that he wants it. And he's just like, I can't give it up yet. I may be 30, but I can still get it done. So I like that. Kaiju number 8 was one of my favorite anime of last year.
Kaiju number 8's a great pick. I didn't get a chance to finish it, but I did love. I watched like the first half. I did love what I saw. It is nice. Me and Keem and I think our roommate Tyler, we were like riding to see AEW the other day, and I brought up how it's weird that so many shonen anime now compared to like the 80s just use children as protagonists. And it's cool to have a shonen anime go back to like, hey man, we just gonna take a grown up. We're gonna do something that's grown up. Now
I'm seeing this trend too.
It is becoming, and I mean, like, as shonen becomes more popular, and it was always popular, but like it's continuing to grow in popularity, especially among like anime fans in the West and like casual anime fans. They tend to talk about either shonen or isekai, and so like as you see that, there has to be more variety among characters, and so like it's great to have them come back to like, hey man, we finna use somebody old. Now is he as cool as Kenshiro? No. But that's not the point. The point is like what Will was talking about. He's just relatable as fuck. Rakeem, I'm gonna spin the block and ask you to go for your second one. What's up?
Okay, big dog. So I go for my second one. I think I'll talk about just like this big year of JRPGs and just gaming for like role playing games that really hit me because a lot of franchises I had big years. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, of course, that was like the big game for me. Final Fantasy 7 was one of my favorite games of all time, so that was going to be my heavy hitter. I spent so many hours on that game, had so much fun. It felt like I was playing an epic. For those of you who don't know what the Odyssey is, that's what an epic is. It feels like that. So if you learn what an epic is,
Christopher Nolan conversation, huh?
Yeah,
great reference.
Yeah,
Amazing.
So it felt like an epic, felt like something that you were like really deep into. It was going to be a journey, and I enjoyed quite a bit of that. Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, because it technically still counts. Just big expansion to Elden Ring, which I freaking loved. I actually thought it was more concise and more maybe even better than the base game in some ways, because it was just like you got to everything so much faster, and it still told a decent story. It still had a lot of variety of combat, variety of areas. Everything that FromSoft does at a high level, they killed it with this expansion. One of my favorite parts of the year. The return of Dragon Age after a freaking decade. Like a great franchise like Dragon Age, which has had its ups and downs, although I would say it's up because, its last game was the best-selling game in the franchise. So it's more so the company itself has been up and down because of different games and stuff that haven't done well. And I liked Dragon Age for the Veilguard. It was just nice to be back in that universe. I love the Dragon Age universe. It was fun to play like this more action combat-oriented thing. I can nitpick certain things I didn't like in the game. I think in the end, I started liking the story more at the end than I did in the middle, which
That's what a lot of people say.
Yeah, which is kind of unfortunate, but I'm just glad there was a return to like BioWare attempting to kind of get back to their roots a little bit and like stick to the franchise that made them who they were. And I hope Mass Effect comes through and is just as good or better. I played a lot of Trails this year. Always got to shout out Trails, man. I played Cold Steel 4, finally finished that. Played Trails in the Reverie, currently playing that now. I know Daybreak came out. It's been a big couple years for Trails. They have really started expanding and putting out releases and like kind of getting more into the general public's knowledge. In the new release of the remake of Sky One this year, I say next year, it's January. This year could be a big tipping point in this franchise. So it's kind of an exciting time to be a Trails fan. And other than that, I would say just in general, just having a lot of JRPGs in a positive light, doing well in general, kind of coming back to form. It's nice to see because we remember where they were in the PS3 era and how people perceived them back then in certain times, and just them coming back strong, having such a big year. Oh, and of course, Like a Dragon. Got to talk about Like a Dragon too. Like a Dragon also had a big year. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I'm playing that right now. That game did extremely well. It's one of the best, if not the best, review Yakuza game of all time. And then now they got the Pirate Yakuza coming out in February. Big year for them. I'm happy to see that come through. So just in general, JRPGs and RPGs doing well for me is always positive. It put a smile on my face seeing franchises I love come back and new franchises come to the forefront that I've come to love as I've gotten older.
All right. Devin, go ahead, man.
So this next one I want to talk about is a game that Will just mentioned. And I hadn't beat it yet. I got like 40 hours in it. But I've enjoyed it quite thoroughly so far, is Metaphor. When this game was like announced and they showed it off, I'm like, this looks interesting. Like art style already had got me. I mean, that's one thing that Atlas does with their games, their Persona games, the art style. If you're looking for that, it's got it. But this just had more to me. Like it was just even more unique with like the characters, like their clothing. You've got, which I thought were like human characters, but like humans are like creatures in this universe. I still haven't found out like what's going on with that. But man, like this when I find an RPG, especially a new RPG that makes me feel like back when I was in high school, middle school, playing these RPGs and just like being enthralled into this world, enjoying the combat, enjoying the abilities. This game took me back to that. And if a game can do that for me, especially in an RPG, and some of my favorite RPGs are Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10, Star Ocean, all these games I played back when I was younger, I got to give it credit. The music is outstanding. The visual design is outstanding. The story right now is really enthralling. Like and I mean, coming out in such an election year is like was crazy because like the story was literally about electing a new king or throning a new king. And it's like, there's so many like things in that game that are kind of like similar to like current day social commentary, just having people that like shouldn't be in positions of power, want to be in positions of power. You got some dude who wants to be king just because he's good looking. It's like, bro, what weight does that hold to you being a king? It's like, well, I look good, right? Y'all want a king that looks good. No one don't care about that. What's your policies? What you gonna do for the people? You got one guy that's like, hey man, we're gonna tax the young and bankroll the elderly. It's like, but okay, what?
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
So it's such a roller coaster. Like even the beginning starts off like just super like, dang, we going there just immediately, like stuff going on. You see people that's like in positions of power, and you're like, man, none of y'all was good. It seemed like the king was a good person, but all his people under him seem like they're trash. So it's like going through this journey of like, now you're anybody can like become the king. It's like, it's not like, oh, you have to have certain credentials, be a certain age, like just basically anybody, so there's this race for anybody out there that wants it. It doesn't matter if you're poor, if you're a tribe that people don't like, because the main character's from a tribe that basically just gets ridiculed all the time, people saying slurs and stuff about them. So it's actually cool like to see how when you do certain things in the game, it affects like your social or your popularity rank, and then people start to like you. And it's like, oh, you're an elder, but you seem like you're pretty good. Like going into a church and going to buy something, and it's like, we don't serve your kind. It's like, bro, like it's the church though. He's like, well, you know what? I'll sell it to you, but at a premium. But what? It's the church.
You with that too? He is not lying at all.
But man, overall, I've enjoyed. I haven't beat it just yet because I'm going back and beating another game that I liked from last year, but I had some technical issues with it throughout the year. It was Black Myth Wukong. I finally my problems with that were like hardware issues. I had to get an SSD, so now I can go back and finish that. Then I'm gonna finish Metaphor. But yeah, Black Myth probably would have been my game that I would have said it, unless I played Final Fantasy, but I didn't play that because I'm waiting to get it on PC in about 2 weeks. But yeah, Metaphor is fantastic. Any RPG fans, I highly suggest it. The archetype system is dope. Anytime I see a game brings in like a new mechanic or something, and they figure out a way to like, let's see how we can be different. I mean, it's kind of similar to like the Personas, but it's like, you get these archetypes, you level them up, they change, they evolve. Different people, your relationship with different people, like, oh, this person's, you can tell by a certain person's personality, oh, they're probably going to have this type of archetype, Heismay, little, the short, cool.
That's the goat right there. That's the goat right there.
Yeah, Heisman is he's such a cool character. He's nothing like I thought it was gonna be. I thought he was like some little small cutesy character. I'm like, oh, this is a grown man. Like, yeah, children and everything. He's scared of bugs though, but you know. But yeah, it's a fantastic game. So definitely one of my favorite, gaming wise, one of my favorite things of 2024.
Okay, I like that. Metaphor getting another nod. You know, it's not a surprise game of the year type shit going on over there.
Play it sometime this year, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's good luck. There's a lot of shit coming up. So
I swear.
Just need
a
hyperbolic time chamber and just a load of time to get through everything.
You definitely do. The only reason I'm getting through a lot of stuff in January. I'm gonna try to, but other than that, it's like, hey man, after that, it's just a string of games just coming out, and you're not gonna have time for anything else. My second choice is Mushoku Tensei Season 2 Part 2. Mushoku Tensei is still one of the weirdest anime I've ever come to love. It's still a hard recommendation for just like to tell the average person. I would not tell an average person that doesn't watch anime at all to check it out. In fact, I would not even tell a casual to check it out because a lot of casuals probably bounce off because of some of the, basically because Rudeus is still such a controversial character. But now, as Season 2 Part 2 comes along, he's controversial in different ways as the series allows him to grow quite a lot. The first half of Season 2 was basically just seeing Rudeus recover from the trauma that he accrued in Season 1. It's a lot of like, oh, I'm going to school, oh, I'm living a regular life, but I still got this ED and I don't know what to do about that.
What a thing to have in an anime.
Right? That's crazy.
I know, right?
I remember my homeboy texting me. He was watching. He said, is this whole season about ED?
First half was.
And I was like, yeah, it is.
He didn't get cured until like episode 12, which is 2023. 2024, though, like it's a lot of they dive a little bit deeper. They allow him to build a family while recovering, you know, his old family. I know a lot of people don't love the Season 2 at all because it's not as action focused as Season 1 was. But the shift to a character-driven narrative makes the action hit so much harder. And then there's just so much stuff that they can do because of the way that they've built their narrative. Like 38 episodes in, you see this fucking dweeb get married, and it just feels different than when you see marriage scenes in a lot of anime, because a lot of times you just don't know that character or those characters like that. But I knew both Rudeus and the woman he married, I won't spoil, I knew who he was getting married to, and so I felt something that I wouldn't normally feel. And most shows never develop their characters enough to pull that off, and I thought that was a really great moment. And then there's a lot of even though the trauma is supposed to be gone, there's a lot of trauma in this season. Nanahoshi's episode where you learn like what it's like what it would really be like to be in an isekai world, where you like, hey man, you know, you're not just given all the answers. You don't just have access to all the power. Like, what if you were just pulled from a world where it's not the worst thing ever? Like you have a regular life with friends and family that love you, and suddenly you're pulled into this world where you don't know anybody, and the culture is gross and disgusting to you because it's not what you're used to, and you don't speak the fucking language, and so you have to learn the language the hard way. And you don't have access to all this magic. In fact, Nanahoshi didn't have access to any magical spells at all. She was just really smart, and she started to figure shit out. And then when she finally tries, like she's trying to go back home, and when she finally starts to feel like, I'm not going back home, she does not take it well. And it's just such a great episode because it's like, oh, this is what that would actually be like. There's an episode where Rudeus gets to talk to one of his sisters as she's grown up, and she always had like a contentious relationship with him because of what he did to their dad at one point. And then like you get to see what she's like going to school, and like how she has this moment that mirrors Rudeus's old life when he was just a shut-in and didn't know how to connect with people anymore. Like he became completely incapable of connecting with the outside world, and Norn was really close to that. And that's one of the most touching episodes of an anime I've ever seen. Even Turning Point 3, like I know the turning points are always a big deal. This one, it's not immediately a big deal, but you can see where they're going with it, where he's suddenly forced to go out and go back to being an adventurer, and it hits different now because he's a man, he's a grown man with a wife and a child on the way, and he has something to protect now. And so like but he has to. It's like it's not optional for him. he can't just avoid this like, oh, I'll just do something else, or oh, I'll let someone else do it. It don't sit well with him, and he's forced to go back out and do something. And as far as like the people that don't like the fact there's not enough action, when you get to the part with the labyrinth, you get all the action you're looking for, and a little more than what you was looking for. Because by the time you're done, you're like, wait a minute, I asked for all this. And then like for Rudeus to finally get his family together, but it ain't what he wanted. It ain't what it don't come how he thought it was gonna come. And I'm not gonna spoil what happens, but like there's some twists and turns to like the plot and like him finally getting his whole family together. And you like, whoa, this it leaves off in a very interesting spot. And it really is just one anime that I just can't quit because of how good the writing is, how great the world building is, and how much work they put into developing those characters. So yeah, that's my second pick. Terrence, that leaves you, bro.
Well, I won't dive too much in. Well, I'll take a different angle because Rakeem talked about hip hop in 2024. Really, and he mentioned Kendrick. I was going to talk about Kendrick, but I also talk a little bit about just music overall. But man, what a year Kendrick had in 2024.
Man,
and you already mentioned GNX and everything in the Drake beef. I'm not gonna get into that because I mean, hell, there's like so many videos and like documentaries at this point with people talking about
it became its own like content form.
It took on its own life.
Yeah, exactly. Like people honestly, people ended up learning more about Kendrick and Drake than they probably learned about any politician this last year, and that was arguably that was arguably a lot more important. But I digress. Anyway, just seeing Kendrick is interesting because Kendrick has always been a big artist, but it's fascinating to see how people in 2020, a lot of people in 2024 didn't really like. It felt like they didn't really know him like that, which is weird because, like, for me, like, I'm not gonna act like I'm like some super Kendrick fan. Like, I'm a big fan of his. I've been listening to him since Good Kid, Mad City. I know some people have been listening to him since Section 8, and I mean he's been around for over a decade. And the fact that people acted like this Kendrick guy, he hasn't had any hits or anything, is like, where have you been? Like this Kendrick guy, like, oh, he ain't got nothing on Drake, and it's like, really, you honestly believe that? Like, have you not been listening to rap for like the past decade or so? Like, where have that's the difference between people who like just listen to like the most popular rap, which is Drake, versus people who are like deeper into hip hop and rap and know more about like a lot of the artists who may not get as much shine as Drake, but are like really like masters of their craft. And that's who somebody like Kendrick is. Like, he's one of the masters of rap, and he took, like, after that beef, he like ran with it, and everything he's been doing after that just bangers me. He had a banger album with GNX, and he has a tour next year with SZA. That's
this year.
going to, well, yeah, this year. Yeah, you're right. Now that we are in 2025 now. Yeah, he has a tour this year with SZA. And, that's going to be incredible. So just what a year that he had, but just music overall too. Just feel like it really stepped up last year. Really, a lot of artists went on tour as well. Like, it just feels like we're in the era now of touring. Just artists are just continuously doing that, just because that's where a lot of them are getting their income from. Let's be honest, most of them are not really getting their income from like actual streaming, unless you're just like in the billions of streams. Like, you're at the top of the top in terms of the number of streams that you're getting. So yeah, a lot of artists are continuously going on tour. I got to see a lot of shows last year. I didn't grow up going to like a lot of concerts. Like, I didn't go to my first concert until I went to Mississippi State University, and that was a free concert. That was part of like Bulldog Bash. Some of the people here will know what I'm talking about. Well, everybody here will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't start going until then, and it really had been a long time since I had started going to concerts. And last year, I just made it a mission to just enjoy live music more and go and see different artists. And yeah, I just really enjoy that. So I just say that last year was just a good year for music overall, but just Kendrick, like, what a run he had. That it was just incredible, from watching the Drake beef to him dropping an album pretty much out of nowhere and everybody being tapped into it, to, of course, Not Like Us, that being such a huge thing for the year. Yeah, I'd have to say he's one of the artists of last year. Him and Sabrina Carpenter and Chaperone, they were like the artists that had like the biggest years last year. So yeah, good year for music in 2024.
Yeah,
left out that Charlie XCX though.
Oh yeah, Brat. I mean, I can't mention everybody, but yeah, Brat was. I mean, huge.
Brat was pretty big.
Brat Summer. I mean, there's so many artists that had like huge years last year. But yeah, like Rakeem said, pretty much like Sabrina Carpenter, Chapel Roan, those two, huge year.
Go ahead, Rakeem.
What's up?
Just an aside, adding on to what you said, I thought that was actually pretty informative. Was that one thing I noticed too was around the time last year because of the Drake Kendrick beef. I think one reason people didn't listen to Kendrick for the first part because he took that long break between albums.
Yeah,
and Drake kept dropping. So a whole new generation that came up got to listen to Drake because he just never stopped dropping. But another part of that, yeah, honestly, since Scorpion, I have not enjoyed most of his projects. I didn't like Scorpion that much. I will say that one thing I noticed was that there's a lot more introspection from people who who are younger people, it seems like, who never really thought to look into the music deeply, who seem to be looking into it deeply. I had a conversation with my homegirl from back in the day. We used to talk about hip hop all the time, and she was more into like the Boosie and the Future and like, you know, that type of hip hop. And she just sat me down. And this aside from Kendrick, she just sat me down one day. Not sat me down, but like we were in the car and she was talking about, hey, have you ever listened to like Tyler the Creator? And I was like, how do you feel about it? I'm like, that's not your wheelhouse of hip hop at all. This is like new ground. So I was happy. I'm like, let's talk for a long time about this. And then she just talked about like, hey, how did you get into like underground and like what allowed you to see that these artists were going to be the future? And I was like, I didn't know they were going to be the future. I just got recommendations from my homeboys like Sage right next to me. Sage put me on Childish Gambino, one of my favorite artists of all time. And I remember Section 80 came out. It was you and Keith who talked about Section 80 a lot. And that got me into listening to Kendrick for the first time. So it was like kind of osmosis. You know, Dat Piff was on back then. And it's just cool to see people who just never cared about this stuff. All they cared about was club music. And they just like, hip hop does like have lyricists. And like there are artists from like these underground dudes used to talk about all the time. They became wildly successful. I had a friend from my church when I was a kid. He brought it up one time. I was at church with him. He said, every dude you put me on blew up. Chance the Rapper, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, every single one of them blew up. They all became huge artists. And it was like, I don't know what you know, but I want to know what you know. I was like, I don't know anything. I just heard they could rap and they were really good at their artwork. And if you're good enough, it's going to come to the forefront. So that was just a side I put on.
Yeah, and if I said Section 8 for the, I meant Section 80, but yeah,
Section 80.
Section
Yeah.
80, yeah. If just to correct
The
that.
people not listening to Damn.
For real?
Damn was a long time ago.
Man,
It was. That was
Shannon
which is
Sharp
crazy.
called me and tell me to stop.
I mean, to me,
Come on,
that's
man.
crazy too. That was like his most successful album, I believe. Period. Right?
I mean, if you want
numbers
to count
wise.
if you want to count the Black Panther soundtrack,
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that is true. That did happen in
that
like
is true,
2018. Yeah, so. Yeah.
but I mean, like, you know, Damn came out in 2017, and so like that is a long time. Like, Mr. Morale came out 2 years ago?
2022, right?
2022. So it's like 5 years between albums, and you know, people they expect an album every year or every other year.
Which is not the way it
Especially
used to be.
hip-hop.
Like used to be, you would take a good break and come back and
You
know
would, but that's like pre-streaming.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, like it would be 2 years, 3 years between projects. That was just expected, and you might drop a mixtape in between, maybe. But you know, that was the thing that you expected. Now the goal is, hey man, drown the world in as much music as possible.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're not doing that, then you're not really popping.
Yeah.
It works too.
Yeah.
It worked till it don't work, as Drake just found out.
Thing too.
Devin, what's your third thing?
Oh man, this list is hard. I want to do another game, but I think I'm gonna have to give it to an anime series that I have fallen off for a while, but it reeled me back in this year, man. I'm gonna have to give it to Daima, man.
Okay.
There's a lot of anime I wanted to pick. I mean, Bleach has been hitting on all cylinders for me. I really wanted to pick that one. Just like I love Bleach, and like where it's at now is just they're getting to this like Final Fantasy end game level of, you know, story and like the situation they're in. But Daima, man, I remember we first saw I'm pretty sure we all looked at that trailer in the podcast on an episode reviewing animes coming out. And the first thing I think everybody thought was, oh man, they doing a Teen Titans Go style Dragon Ball. They doing like the Goku and kids friends, all this. It's like, are we gonna get GT again? And I think most of us here, I know I was pleasantly surprised that this was. They was like, oh, you thought Akira is like, this was like Akira's his last send off. He's like, I feel like he put his last bit of soul into this. Like, hey, this is gonna be pretty good. Y'all might think there's something else, but it's not that. The whole kid thing is like, we've seen it before. We saw like Goku Junior, Vegeta Junior at the end of Z. Then we get Goku gets turned into a kid in GT. GT was not great at all. If you look at it, I was a fan of it at the time. Like Super Saiyan 4, Baby Vegeta were two of my favorite things. But overall, GT was not that great. When you go back and watch it, it just wasn't that great. Super 17 was a highlight of it, but overall, just wasn't that great. I tried Super, I just couldn't get into it. I tried it, just couldn't get into it. But man, Diamond, talk about adventure, exploration. Like this is like some Dragon Quest, old school Dragon Ball. It's like we adventure, we traveling with the new areas, we fighting these enemies. Like this is adventure for an anime, and I love it. Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, he like, hey, sometimes you gotta pop out and show him, man. Hey,
it took 30 years. The fans to finally get that, but we got it.
It's so funny because if I'm not mistaken, like Dragon Ball Budokai 3 had Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta in it, I believe. And it's like now it's legit canon. We got it.
Finally
it's
canon.
Like even Goku's like, wait, where you get that? Where you get that? Hey, shut up, man. It's my time to shine. It's like he can come a long way from grid mode, man. He out here, you know what I'm saying?
Boy, has he though.
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget grid mode. But man, Dragon Ball Diamond is so good, man. It's the humor, the action, the animation style. Which another thing, this is the animation style I wish Super would have had, because Super, to me, they look too like shiny and kind of not plastic, but it's just I had this shine to it. It just didn't really make sense. And it's like this is more so that Dragon Ball Z style of animation, but it's like kind of modernized, really kind of like the movie, the Super movie with Broly. And I'm like, that is the style they needed to go with for anything new from here on out, and they did it. The fights are dope, like the action is dope. You've even got a Star Wars style bar fight. Of course, you know, Goku, even though he's a child, even when he was an adult, he was just a silly, he says dumb stuff. He's basically just a child at heart, you know. It's a fun-loving guy, but it's like even him as a kid now, it makes some of the stuff even funnier. Like the scene where they was like trying to protect the Dragon Ball. He's like, I'll stay up and watch, and he just like
Fell asleep
straight knocked out. But yeah, I'm loving it so far. The adventure of like them being in a demon realm, even adding lore to it, like, okay, anybody that's got pointed ears, they're demons. Kind of retconning some stuff, because I think what Piccolo doesn't know Namekian is like, well,
yeah, that was wild.
He's literally half Kami. Like that makes that can't make sense, because Kami is one of the oldest Namekians. Like probably him, this new Namekian, and then was a Guru.
Yeah,
they were probably like the oldest Namekian, so you can't say he doesn't know Namekian. But anyway, like the person that made the Dragon Balls, he don't know Namekian. Okay, cool. But yeah, this show the new, well, I'm not sure now. It's like the villains are kind of up in the air, because Goma's, he's like the new Demon King, which was hilarious. The beginning was hilarious. Them just basically doing like a multi-screen watch of the Z history. Like, hey, who these guys, man? They kind of out here cooking all these villains, man. They killed the board. Well, the board got killed by Boo. He got eaten. He's like, oh wait, if he's dead, maybe I'm the new Demon King. Oh snap! It's time to be devious.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know, man. It like even seeing Supreme Kai's brother. It's like, oh, he's got a brother, and all his siblings are just like, they just out here doing devious stuff. His sister, she out here created Skull and Skulk and Bull, like from Power Rangers. It's like Bogus Skull is like, what's going on here? I can't wait, because I know there has to be more for Majin Doo and Majin Ku. Oh my gosh. It's got to be more to that. There's got to be some lead up to that. Maybe they fuse or something, or maybe they make a third one. It's like, okay, now that guy ain't to be messed with, because right now these two they like, I don't know about these two. They can't be the villain, because I'm sure Goku and Vegeta probably gonna get both of these guys to work.
I mean, Majin Doo ain't to be messed with. I mean, you know, he can fight. He just, you know, you got to feed him first.
I don't know, man.
Give him some
that
chocolate.
that Tamagotchi, man. That Tamagotchi
Tamagotchi.
number 2. I think he was saying, but ain't no way he got beat by that dude. Like, I'm like, you only like you was trying, my guy. And the one that Vegeta fought, he like kind of transformed into different modes. Like, you got beat by him because he ate something. Man, get out of here, bro.
Well, he transformed because the Namekian was there to just like boost him up a little bit.
Man, well, oh yeah, that's right, because he made those things.
Yeah,
it's like you telling me that one of them made Vegeta go Super Saiyan 3. Come on, bro. You supposed to be this like. I guess that the making was like, I guess I can't make him too strong, but it's like if you made him that strong to protect a Dragon Ball each, you got to make him pretty strong. And I feel like he just saying, but he's like, I'll give it to you, bro. But yeah, I have to give it to Dragon Ball because they got me back in. I'm loving the show, and I don't know how long it's gonna last, but man, I'm when it ends, I'm probably gonna be sad.
I think it's 7 more episodes left or 6 more episodes left. That we know of. It may run for another season, but the first season is 20 episodes, which is a weird pick. But I mean, whatever. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Number to stop at.
Saga. Hard pick. I guess I'm going with Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak. I did spend a large portion of 2024, playing that game. Falcom really is a master at what they do because every time I think I'm tired of the formula of the Kiseki games, they proved me wrong. I picked the game up. I'm like, oh, I wasn't tired of this at all. I just needed a new game. Daybreak is a welcome change from the Cold Steel games and all that high school shit. I was actually surprised at how quickly they took to exploring darker themes. Suddenly it's, they're talking about racism and politics and the sex work industry and all this other shit. And they're allowing stories where characters actually die, which is like a big problem in the Cold Steel games. This one, not so much.
Early too.
Really early. And they just keep going. They're like, oh, you thought this character was going to make it? I don't know why you thought that. They up out of here. It's like, oh, shit. All right. This is a different type of game. If you don't know Trails, Daybreak takes place in an all-new continent. Like, that's the big thing with Trails. It all takes place in the same universe around the same time, but they'll go to different continents. Daybreak takes place in an all-new continent without most of the characters of the old game, so it's like mostly without the baggage of the old games too. And Daybreak is fascinating because it takes place in effectively a modern fantasy story. Like, it's a modern fantasy universe. The country of Calvert, which is where you go, has all, they've had all these tech advances to the point where it's just our world with magic. Like, they got net cafes, they got a heavy car culture. Even their political system resembles ours. There's not a king or like any of that shit. There's no emperor. It's just a president. And like when his term is up, he got to run for re-election. And if he lose, he up out of there. Like the president, you see the president at Calvert in Cold Steel 4, and you get the Daybreak. It's a whole new president because the last dude lost. And in Daybreak, they introduced Van Arkride, a protagonist. He's nothing like any of the old protagonists. The other protagonists, they constantly trying to prove how good they are. They're basically superheroes by the end of their game, which is nice. But this is a welcome change. If this character is a welcome change of pace, I tell this story all the time about how Van is just like really money driven. Like, he'll do anything. Well, not anything, but like anything within reason for the right price. And he mostly doesn't care about who he works for. There's some exceptions for like the true scum of the earth, but for the most part, he's like, hey man, I'll do whatever if you're paying me. And like, there's this one part early on in the game where he's like driving past like this bus full of people that have been surrounded by like wolves. And he just stops and he's like, fuck, I hate doing free work. And so he goes out and saves them, but he's like mad because he's like, man, I was supposed to get paid for this. And the first chance he gets to like bill somebody for his work, he does. He's like, hey man, oh, you the person. Well, tell you what, since I saved your life and this bus, how about the bus company pay me for my work? It's like, all right. Most characters be like, hey, I'm happy to have helped save y'all. That man was like, no, I'm happy to get paid. Van runs like a problem-solving agency, which does two things for this game that really I vibe with. One is it makes for a wide cast of characters, so you can have like this phantom thief that's in her 20s that's also an actress, and then you can have like this child soldier on the same group, and it doesn't really, it's not like, oh, this is out of place. It's like, no, I'm running into all these different people, and they start working with me. The other thing is it feels, because he's like running a problem-solving agency, is like an older protagonist. It feels like like a late 90s, early 2000s anime, which is like really, it's like a really cool vibe. Like, it reminds me of like Get Backers or Cowboy Bebop or all these other anime where it's just like, hey, you just got this one dude running an agency and he's dealing with different problems and cases every game or every chapter, and it's really cool. I will say I love the fact that the combat shakes some stuff up. They added like an action kind of part to the combat so that you could fight certain enemies and like in real time as opposed to doing the turn-based stuff. They force you into turn-based through different means and whenever you're facing a boss. But like if you're facing like, you know, the random scrubs in a dungeon and you're just trying to rush through, you can always just smack them with the sword until you get where you need to go. They changed up the magic system. And they added like some great music rather, that like I'm like, man, this is just top tier. And like Trails games always have great music, but this game really does have like some next level music. Like the Final Dungeon score is one of the best Final Dungeon themes I've ever heard. Like I just sat there for like a full minute and a half, like, wait a minute, y'all really cooking. And even the Final Dungeon design is really good, which is great because the Final Dungeon, it's like the reason you're going through the Final Dungeon kind of sucks. But like the fact that it's so pretty to explore and the music is so good, you kind of overlook the fact that it's like, we didn't need this. You could have just cut this part. But yeah, it's just a great video game, great classic style JRPG. It hits all the right notes. I do think 85. I think that's what I wound up scoring. I think that's about right. They're like the fact that it is too long in some parts is probably like you have to dock it like a point, and then it's just there's other parts to it where I'm just like, okay, 8.5 is probably right, but it's still just such a fun experience that I loved most of the 80 hours that I spent into it. Like there's maybe like one section towards chapter 3 or something where I'm like, you could have cut some of this, but for the most part, fantastic game. Happy to have spent most of my year playing it. So there you go. Terrence, what's your third thing?
Third thing for me is going to revolve around the movies of 2024. And because we mostly focus on, anime and games here, the two that I'm going to focus on are mostly like are animation related. One being Transformers 1. That movie, I know when the trailers came out for it, people were kind of like, I don't know about this. And to be honest, maybe they could have marketed the movie in a different way. But I will say when you actually go watch the movie, it's quite good. It starts off kind of hokey in terms of like, seeing like this origin of Optimus and Megatron and, Optimus being more of like the lighthearted, jokey guy and Megatron, being a bit more serious. And, you get to a certain point in the movie where there's like a turning point for both of them and you see like the different paths that they go down. And, it's nothing new for this type of movie where we've had plenty of movies in the past where you have two characters who kind of start out as best friends and then something big happens that ends up sending both of them down different paths and how they clash toward the end. I mean, heck, Star Wars with Anakin and Obi-Wan, how they're both on the same path and then something happens where they both diverge and then they have the huge clash. So this was essentially like that, but just the way that it was done, it was very good. And I'm not gonna lie, for something that was pretty much marketed more as like a kid's movie, I was surprised at how dark it got later on, like especially towards the end. There's a scene that happens, I was like, my God, they actually went there with it. Like, of course, I'm not going to spoil, but if you haven't watched it, I definitely recommend it. If you're a Transformers fan at all and you were kind of on the fence about checking it out, you thought like, this is going to be more kids oriented or this isn't going to be up my alley, I recommend at least giving it one watch. And, if you don't like it after that, that's fine. But I think that if you are a fan of the Transformers franchise, that this is a movie worth watching. And it's kind of a shame that it didn't do too well at the box office. Who knows if we'll get another one. I believe Chris Hemsworth did say that he would like to do another one. And that is something that I will dock from it is I do think that the celebrity voice casting, I mean, for animated films, that's going to happen now. It is what it is. But I don't think it really lends itself to making the character stand out in any way. I think, what's my man? Brian Tyson.
Brian Tyree.
Yeah, him. I think his performance in Megatron is pretty good. And I can see why they cast Chris Hemsworth as Optimus, just because he does kind of have that same cadence as Peter Cullen. And toward the end, when he has like that really deep voice, it you can see why they cast him that way, but I don't think his performance really like stands out in terms of like the performances that we've gotten for Optimus in the past. I'll put it that way. It's not bad, but it's not anything that's like groundbreaking either. So yeah, Transformers 1, I would definitely recommend it. And the other movie that I'll mention is The Wild Robot. Man, The Wild Robot is an amazing movie. Like from the animation, the score, the acting, the story, it is so well done. I can't recommend it enough. It's one of those movies that I think should be on everyone's top 10 list for movies of last year. Lupita Nyong'o, she does a great job as the main character. It's just a really touching story, and one that it's a fish out of water story for sure, and there are a dozen of those, but it's told so well, and you really get into the story and the characters, and you really feel for them at like really dramatic moments. And yeah, like I said, if it's a movie that you haven't checked out, I highly recommend it. And there's a bunch of other movies from 2024 that I can recommend as well. Hey, follow me on Twitter or social media if you want to see my list of them. I'm not going to go through them all here due to time. But yeah, I didn't grow up like watching a lot of movies. I'd watch movies like here and there with my parents, or I didn't like go out and watch movies. And that's something that I've tried to fix like over the past couple of years is I got a subscription to my local movie theater, and I try and go and see a movie like every month, like 2 movies a month. So like it pretty much pays for itself. Like honestly, the subscription is like $20 some odd a month. And honestly, if you go twice, it pays for itself. Cause I mean, as we all know, movie tickets are expensive, and really the better way to go about it is to just get a subscription. That way, if you go at least twice, then yeah, it pays for itself. So you don't have to worry about it in that regard. But I've seen a lot of movies last year. There's a lot of really good ones. So for those that, are still the belief that, Hollywood, they're not making anything original, there's nothing good to watch, everything's just a remake or a bunch of sequels, I challenge you to like actually look at the list of movies that are coming out and see which ones that you aren't familiar with, and look at the trailer, and if it's something interesting, go see it. Yeah, just don't fall into the trap of just thinking that everything is just remakes and sequels, because it isn't. I kind of hate when people say that, because those are usually the people that don't know about the actual good movies that did come out until like the Oscars or something comes along, and then people will check out those movies.
Sometimes not even then.
Yeah, not even then.
Oscars
Some people
not worth trusting.
Yeah. So yeah, but I just one of those things where I just say there's a lot out there, and just open your eyes up to it. That's all I'll say. But yeah, 2024 was a really good year for movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out Jason Statham though for making the same movie 5 years in a row.
No, not shout out to him. We talking about good movies.
I had to break it up after I saw that trailer. The Working Man. The Working Man. It just came. It's just a new trailer.
Man, yeah.
I was like, I've had enough, Jason. I love you, but I've had enough.
Actually, that wasn't him for The Beekeeper, was it? Was that somebody else? Was that 2023?
That was him. Oh my
yeah,
God.
I guess that just goes to show that every single year
he was the Beekeeper. Yeah.
What do you mean? You want to see one of my
Sage,
movies
your
again?
mic went out again, I think.
Beekeeper, Working Man. I'm
Blue collar white man coming to save the day.
I know,
That's
right?
it. That's his Nindo.
You need to cut it out. Will, what's your third one?
My third one. Well, I know Keem went on like an overall like thing of talking about JRPGs. I have another one that really, really kind of nipped me. I need to go back and finish it. But Unicorn Overlord. Yes, this right here. This is one of them games. And shout outs to Vanillaware, and also shout outs to Atlas, because Atlas had one hell of a year behind them with all the stuff they put out, whether it be the remakes or the remasters, but also publishing other games. And this was one of those games they published, Unicorn Overlord. All I have to say is, if you like Fire Emblem, if you like Ogre Battle or Tactics Ogre, this is right up your alley. Like, the battles are automated, but everything is done in like a real-time strategy-like thing. You're on a field, you move your characters across, and they move on their own. You set them on a path, and they go. Until they run into an enemy or run into something important, they pick it up, or they go into that fight. When I tell you Vanillaware can really, in my mind, do no wrong with their art style and their direction, it's insane how beautiful their games end up looking every single time they put them out. Even going back to something as simple as the Princess Crown, Dragon's Crown, 13 Sentinels, which a lot of people love and still talk about to this day. Yeah, Odin Spear, thank you. All those games, amazing, beautiful. Gameplay is awesome. I think the story is okay at this point, at least for where I'm at right now, since I'm kind of grinding and going through like the motions of getting everything done as you see fit. Because someone did recently just do a speed run of this and beat this game in 20 minutes. So I need to see that.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah,
That's crazy.
Unicorn Overlord has so far been amazing. As far as I can tell, at least within my 30 or so hours of it that I play, I really love it so far. And anytime Vanillaware comes out, this is a PSA for me. Anytime Vanillaware puts a game out and you're skeptical of it, don't be. Please go and buy it because they broke the bank on this one. They told us flat out on Twitter, they said, hey, y'all, look, the game is coming. We're pretty much done. But we in the red right now for this game. So could y'all please go buy it? They pretty much said, hey, go buy the game. We broke. We spent it all.
That was wild.
So yeah, Unicorn Overlord is like one of my favorite RPGs that I like really enjoyed in 2024, and I'm gonna finish it this year alongside a couple other games. Please go play Unicorn Overlord. Super awesome game.
Aren't they not putting that on PC? Am I tripping?
They said they are not doing that. They said they don't have no plans for that as of right now, and I can understand why, because they keep wasting it in the goddamn art room.
I was gonna say, yeah, you ain't.
And I'm not mad at them.
They gonna keep running into some problems then.
Is it Switch, PS5, and Xbox?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it Xbox?
Is it? I don't think it is.
I just mentioned it. I don't know. But
how badly do you really want?
Oh, it is. It is. It's Xbox, PS5, PS4, and Switch.
Dang, at that point, you might as well just drop it on PC then.
That's why I said. How badly do you really want this money?
I'll be real with you. Some Japanese devs had this thing where they just like, look, I don't think we got the time to do this on PC. Let's just go to the next game. That's kind of how they feel sometimes. They be like, look, we got it on the consoles. If you want it on PC bad enough, just run up at us in the office at this point. But other than that, we ain't doing it.
I mean,
I think we've hit the turning point for that. I think a lot of Japanese devs are gonna start putting their stuff on PC going forward.
They ain't got no choice. They ain't making no money. They got to make money some kind of way.
Yeah,
they got to.
See what happened with Square. They like, hey man, let's get this out. We wasting money. We're not hitting the targets that we have. Rakeem, what's your third one?
So yeah, my third one's good. My third one's gonna be really simple. It's I started reading again, so I'm gonna talk about the stuff I read between books and graphic novels. So just a few things I read. The Cradle series by Will Wright. This martial arts epic, kind of feels like almost like Avatar. It's like a very unique universe where they have like these class system based on like your ability to perform martial arts, and like you have like the ability to have these powers at a certain age, and the main character is unsold. He does not have the capability to reach the levels that his peers and his family does. So he's kind of looked down upon. He has to have creative ways to get around his problems because everyone around him is like a freaking like Goku, and he Krillin. So he got to figure out things differently. So I think that's a very interesting concept. It's a full series, and it goes into some really the power scale goes up fast. Like you think the story is going to be one thing, and then there's a big thing that happens in the middle, a very big event, and then the story goes a complete different direction. So I was very captivated by this series. I'm still reading it. I got finished the first book and I'm getting to the other ones, but I really like that. Another book I read was this book called Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is more of like a mystery story about like a young girl whose best friend just goes missing. And a big part of the story is that it seems like nobody cares. Nobody's as concerned about her friend missing as she is. Even the family, her friend's family is even kind of like iffy and weird. And she's trying to figure out like, why does nobody care about this? Like somebody who means everything to me, and I haven't seen or heard from them in a while, and no one else seems to be as concerned as I am. And that's just the premise of it. So I don't want to spoil anything else. So I hope that's a book you should look into if you're in more like mystery. It's also a Black author. It's a story about a Black girl, and it's pretty interesting.
That right
has
there,
its own. That's its own. Yeah,
it has its own thing to it. When it's like, oh yeah, she went missing, and nobody cares. Like really, like
yeah.
Okay,
there's own connotation there. So now next I'm gonna go in manhwa. I've been reading 2024. A lot of writers and series I really love from Korean manhwa came back at the same time. So my favorite manhwa of all time is this manhwa called Hardcore Leveling Warrior, which is a pretty simple story about this guy in MMO who's like the best player in the game, level 99, all the armor, all the stats. And in this world, it's a game where you play it while you sleep. And he's leveraged making money in the game through his like content and like doing stuff to pay off his debts, because he's also a dude who is like a chronic gambler and in constant debt, and he owes like some really mafioso shady people some money. And the big turning point in the story is that something happens where some character who has a glitch or something comes through, takes him out, he loses everything he earned. And so like now he owes these people all this money, and they're like, look, you gotta stay in this room until you make this money up. So it's a very interesting story about how this character learns how to become a better person by losing everything he had, because he was the top dog, kind of get a little humble pie, but he doesn't totally. He still keeps his personality of kind of being a little bit of a dick, but he becomes a better person as a result of it. And this cast of characters, I really enjoy the art style, I enjoy the world, the MMO universe, how the game is played, the stuff outside the game is interesting. And so it came back recently with this series called Earth Game, where after the previous events of the story wrapped up and things happened, the game that he was playing has now been fused with the planet itself, and now everybody's in the game. And that has like huge ramifications on like what's going on in the world, and a part of it's like him kind of rebuilding the relationships and guilds and people getting their memories back from the previous game. So I really like that story. There's this story called Lazy Lord Master the Sword that came back off of a long hiatus. That's a typical like how do I describe this? Basically, like, you know how like you have the overpowered protagonist? This is more like I worked my way and earned it protagonist. Like everything about this is like leveling yourself up naturally through practice and repetition and real training and developing and becoming more powerful that way. It's basically an anime where the training arc never ends. He's always improving, and him and his friends as a whole trying to become sword masters. He starts off as a kid who has a lot of trauma. His mother was killed in front of him, and he was a recluse. He didn't want to leave his room. And then eventually he's compelled to leave by this dream he has about this swordsman who always swings his sword every single day. And that evolves into him coming out of that trauma and developing skills and developing friendships and relationships, literally becoming a boy to a man. Like years go by in this manhwa. He goes from a boy to a man, and like all of it's about training and improving, and he never stops improving, never stops training. I find it kind of motivational. I really like that manhwa as well. It's become one of my favorites. And then, almost lost my list. The last one I'll bring up is one called Ashura. I have talked to you guys nonstop. Y'all probably will never read it, but I talk about Gosu. This manhwa, this is martial arts epic, just world destruction, cool kung fu stuff. It's getting the anime, by the way, so it's gonna be unavoidable eventually.
It's getting anime, so
it's getting the anime. So that story ended a few years ago, and the author has a new manga that is in a similar kind of universe, but it goes into this story of these two characters. They don't really explain who they are yet. Early on in this story, they're just like an old man and a young man, and they go around. It's almost like Scooby-Doo. They investigate really weird stuff that goes on like ancient China or like ancient martial arts world with like supernatural stuff, and they like basically solve it. They basically get rid of it. But you don't know why they're doing it. They still haven't explained that yet. But you know they're like really strong, and they investigate these different stories. And each story has kind of like these cool like little mini stories in them where you learn about this certain area, or you learn about what happened to these people. A man who took in a beggar, and the beggar turned out to be abandoned and killed everyone in his family. So he took revenge on them by putting on this collar and became a giant werewolf and killed them all. Or like this village where this woman seemed to be like this peaceful woman who was healing these people and helping them, and she turned out to be like this spirit of a spider that was luring in bandits to her encampment to kill them by building the city up. So she was like luring people in.
Just Trails King.
No, it's not. It's not Trails, but okay. I've been enjoying that. It's a fairly new one. It's called Ashura, Asura. It's still early. I think like maybe 20 something chapters, maybe less than that. But it's been pretty good. It's not no fluff in this, straight to the point. They go from scene to scene, and they don't explain everything. You kind of kind of get context of what's happening, but they don't explain everything yet. I think that's going to be kind of down the road. So I've been really captivated by that too. So yeah, I've been just been enjoying reading manhwa and books again because I took a little break from reading for a while, and I've really been enjoying reading those series so far.
All right, that was a good good selection of things. It's like and very wide variety because you went from like classic prose novels to like manhwa and whatnot. So that was pretty cool. Real quick because we up against it. I'm gonna give everybody 2 minutes if you had like anything that you didn't get a chance to mention that you want to mention. Devin.
So I'm gonna give this one to Fading Skies. Is any game or Kickstarter that like reached like 184% of his Kickstarter in like I think just a couple of days. And it's basically a nod to PS2 like platformers Jak and Daxter. I played the demo, very good. I'm hoping this can come out and be something, and I'm so happy that people still see there's a place for those types of games. You know, Ratchet and Clank is kind of shouldering that himself for the most part. I watched a podcast a few days ago, and they were mentioning two of the people on there were fans of Jak and Daxter, and they're like, man, I'm so tired of Naughty Dog releasing like the same type of game. It's like, bro, Jak just over there like, bro, please. And I, of course, y'all know I'm the resident Jak fan. Like, I feel the same way. But I mean, if I could get some new contender that's like similar to that, if you look at it, Fading Skies, like it's literally just a modern platformer. It's got the same style, the same type of like the world is beautiful, vibrant, lush colors. I played the demo and it was great from what I played so far. I think it's just made by like a couple, so it's like for them to do that much, it's like this is pretty dope. So I got to give it to that one. Hopefully that comes out and it's successful. And my last one, man, I want to say the Game Awards, that was fire, but I'm gonna give it to King. Put me onto a song a few days ago, and I didn't realize this guy was coming back with a vengeance and change up his flow and everything. Will Smith getting back into music. Like King put me on to Tantrum. And it was basically kind of at the end of the year. Tantrum came out pretty much at the tail end, and I just heard it a few days ago. But it's still from 2024. But man, I went and listened to that song and also watched the music video. The music video was super like creative and artsy, like this. Basically, it's Into the Spider-Verse animation for the music video with Jonah Lucas and Will Smith. Jonah Lucas is one of my favorite artists. If I don't know if y'all know this, but I don't listen to a lot of mainstream music. I can't do the whole can't put down the cup. I just can't do all that. So I just, to be honest, I listen to a lot of video game music. That's most of the time when I listen to music, it's like video game music. I'm rocking out to some. I listened to Metaphor soundtrack this year. Like I've listened to that. I just don't. Unless it's like Jonah Lucas or Kendrick or somebody like that, maybe Jake. I just can't do a lot of artists nowadays. I barely listen to music, but the song with him and Jonah Lucas and Will, Tantrum song I like it. I think it's fire. And Will like coming out with this crazy new flow he got that like sounds really good. I listened to this song he had with him and his son and a guy named I think it was Russ, I believe, or Ross, called I'm a Work of Art. I like that song, and it's funny because it's kind of getting mean because like Will has basically Will's verses like him saying, I am this, I am the paint, I am the canvas, I am the brush. So people's in the comment like, I am the cheese, I am the bread, I am the meat. Like I'm like, okay, it's kind of funny. But yeah, Will has some blemishes in the past 2 years, one that we know of for certain that was like the biggest. But I mean, we're humans. People, the celebrities are humans. They're not exempt from making mistakes and doing stuff like that. And I mean, Will has had kind of for the most part, like a stainless career, nothing crazy for the most part. He's still one of my favorite actors. And I mean, like he's had like one of my favorite sitcoms, like Fresh Prince is like a strong second to Martin. Martin is bar none my favorite sitcom. Well, actually, no, Fresh Prince is like third because my wife and kids is second, but he's in his top three. In the top three. But yeah, I'm liking his music direction, what he's going toward, and just also seeing him like being able to do music with his kids is kind of crazy because like him doing music and now it's like dang, you doing songs with your son and potentially his daughter, maybe. I think that's pretty dope. I know some people are, it's like I don't know, man. Will kind of cooking these new songs. He sound pretty good on, so I don't know. So I got to give him a shout out.
Okay, that's what's up. I did like what I heard from I forget which one of those Will Smith songs I heard where I was like, okay, he's trying to change his flow up. He is rapping a little bit. So, and I mean, like that skill, once you get it, it takes a lot for you to lose it. I know Eminem, he had to reteach himself how to rap because of like some addiction issues for a little while. But like for the most part, once you have it, you don't lose it. So like you always know how to like get in the booth and do something. So yeah, I do. And I'm rooting for him to like go ahead and if he wants to go down the path of music again, I think that's dope. Will, 2 minutes. What you got, man? What did you miss?
Right, I mean, for me, I'll go ahead and make it quick. A couple of things I want to talk about really shortly. One, I gotta give credit to Marvel Rivals right now because I really am enjoying that quite a bit, and I have to say it got me to take Overwatch off my system. So you're doing something right, goddammit. Yeah, it got me to take it off my system. The battle pass is $10. There's 10 costumes on the line. I think that's pretty good for $10 for me to get 10 costumes over the year. So not over the year, but over the season. Thank you, Marvel Rivals. Let's keep doing this quality thing. Y'all got a lot to work with within the Marvel universe. Trust me, y'all can do a lot of cool shit.
Oh, plenty.
Forward. Y'all got plenty to work with. Another thing down here, I ain't gonna pick it up. Persona 3 Reload. Shout outs to this game here. Persona 3 is the game that got me flat out into the series, and for them to go ahead and remake it within the P5 engine and keep a lot of the same stuff in place, and it's still good. New soundtrack, new singer, and everything. She's good. The game is still playing amazingly. I just have to say, Persona 3 Reload, another one of those great RPGs that came out of 2024. In that, that first quarter of the year, yeah, and we're experiencing it again this year, yeah. Another 3 months of crazy RPGs and releases coming up. And the last thing I want to talk about, it was more or less an event, but at the Game Awards, not necessarily the show as a whole, even though the show as a whole was pretty good within its pacing and how it kind of put everything out towards us. In particular, I want to talk about these two things that's giving me some hype for the coming years and this year. The fact that we getting Onimusha and Okami back has just blown me away. It is just taking it sucked the wind out of my soul the minute I say it. I'm just like, we really getting those back? Capcom want to do those? What? Give me those. And it's funny because I'm playing the OG Okami right now on my PlayStation. I got that. And I almost got all of the old like Onimusha games, maybe minus like 3. I'm missing that one. Thank you, Capcom. That's really kind of all I can say. Thank you for giving me a reason to look forward to 2025 and 2026. Thank you.
Well,
thank you.
2026 and 2027.
Okami's gonna be a while. I'm pretty sure all that they had was just that clip, and that was it.
That's it. They had nothing else.
2027. You're right about that because it's gonna take them a minute for that.
Rakeem, 2 minutes. Well, what you got for us?
Yeah. So, very similar to Will. The announcements this year at the end of the year with Onimusha. Onimusha was my favorite series ever. So, like, that was like huge for me. You saw it through the hat and the bottle, man. I lost it, man. I was in the moment, bro. I ain't felt like that since I was a child. So that was a dope moment. I gotta give a shout out to that. Just enjoying gaming and just being able to play a lot of variety of games this year. I think this year gaming has been excellent. I don't know why people are saying it was a trash year. That's bull crap. It's been a great year, except for companies. I really hate what's happened to the business of gaming. That has been trash.
Yeah,
that has garbage.
Yeah.
There's no way around that. Now, if that has been jaded to you, that's totally understandable. But as far as the games and quality of games, I've consistently played and gotten. I have more games than I can play. I literally am booked for like 2 years. I'm good.
Same.
Yes.
I'm good. So yeah, if you have a gaming problem, that might be a you problem. You might need to fix that.
That's a you need to play more genres problem.
That's what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Other than that, there was like a few things I liked this year. We talked about hip hop. I noticed one good thing about hip hop I've been noticing. The popularity of that show at Rhythm and Flow that seemed to be doing well. People talking about that. Also, Lil Boosie's daughter has also a similar show, but like online, where she takes like young rappers and they just go. And if you watch it, and then a lot of them are like Southern rappers are hard, but they going at it. They give you everything they got. And that's what I love to see in hip hop. When I see young artists, hungry and trying and have talent and are like, you can see it. that's what she's doing right now with like that, whatever the competition show she has, this just like show where she just displays these people and allow them to just go and just perform their art, and they're like no-name artists. That is so dope to me. I love stuff like that. And I think that's going to help the genre as a whole, stuff like Rhythm and Flow and like that show that Boosie's daughter is doing that like just uplift the artistry as a whole. That's what I want to see. So that's some positive things I saw this year. And I kind of found my joy in sports again this year. Watched way more football than I have in a long time. Enjoyed some games. Shout out to Saquon Barkley. That reverse hurdle is one of the craziest highlights I haven't
that shit
watched.
Was fucking thick.
I ain't watched a highlight so many times since Vince Carter put his arm in the rim. That's how dope that highlight was. Or the one arm or touchdown. Like that was really dope. There's been a lot of really cool plays this year in football that are kind of underappreciated. I think there was some cool touchdowns like dang near pinky toe touch at the last second kind of touchdowns. Lamar Jackson's year has been crazy. Joe Burrow, unfortunately, his team sucks, but his play has been great.
Boy,
he is fun to watch. So yeah, I've been enjoying football a lot this year. I've been enjoying basketball too. There's been a lot of really close games. I remember Christmas specifically. On Christmas Day, every game was close. Like every game was like really close. I turned the football off. Oh,
it's almost like sports gods were cursing the NFL. Like, hey, it's not y'all day. This the NBA day. Yeah. You got a bunch of really bad NFL games, but like all the NBA games really good.
All of them. I watched everything. I watched all the football games and most of the NBA games, and all the NBA games were good. So I've been enjoying sports a lot this year. It's been nice to just watch basketball and football and enjoy them. There's a lot of negativity around basketball right now, but overall, having a good time.
Terrence, 2 minutes. What you got for us?
So real quick, for TV, a show that I'm sure everyone has heard about, but I can't recommend enough. It's getting a lot of awards right now. Is Shogun. Shogun was one of the best shows of 2020.
Won the Golden Globe, didn't it?
Yeah, it won the Golden Globe. Won some Emmys. Like, it's Shogun is huge.
It's a good show.
It's a really good show, and I mean, it's one of those shows where FX, I think they spin it all because I think it's their most expensive show to date, and it worked out. It's one of those shows where I watched the Golden Globes, and the showrunner of the show, he said that it's pretty much a show that shouldn't have even been greenlit just because it seemed impossible, but they made it happen, and I mean, I can't recommend it enough. I'd say that, if you're just into historical dramas, if you like action, even if you're in like anime, I know that's kind of maybe sacrilegious to some recommending this show based on anime, but it's like, I think that, if you don't normally watch live action shows and you are into anime, this is one to watch. I'll put it that way. But yeah, Shogun, huge deal. Definitely recommend it as one of the best of 2024. And also one of the sadder moments of 2024, but also turned into like a positive moment just because the world collectively mourned for the person, was the passing of Akira Toriyama. And I only remembered it because Devin mentioned Dragon Ball Daima. And yeah, that was in 2024, him passing. But seeing the world just collectively get together and talk about how great of a guy he was and how much he inspired everyone. Like from all the anime fans talking about how, they grew up with Dragon Ball and how that inspired them, to other countries, just countries that you did not think would like pay it any mind, giving like a day of mourning for him. Latin America, they were in tears from his passing. So it's just one of those things where it was a very sad moment, but it's one of the few moments that brought everyone together, and there was good in that. Just the fact that we all could appreciate the work that Akira Toriyama had brought to the world and how great it was and how influential he was, and how he'll continue to be influential. So he had a great life, and even though his passing was sad, it's great to see that his legacy will live on.
That's a good choice. I understand exactly where you're coming from. It's like, because like that's such a defining creator. And not just for fans and not just for other like countries, but like actual anime and manga creators, like even they were like touched and like, because like he had done so much, and like the talent level. I mean, like some of the stuff he's able to do, not just with Dragon Ball Z, but with Dr. Slump, but also with like Dragon Quest and Chrono Trigger and stuff like that. His influence will be felt in multiple genres across multiple mediums. So yeah, that's a good pick. I'm not gonna waste too much time. One of my favorite things is Dune Part 2. Really love that movie. Got a chance to check it out. Surprisingly good adaptation. I've always been not a super fan of Dune, but like I kept up. I know a little bit about what, like the novels and whatnot and what they were aiming to do. And I was surprised that they were able to do that at the scale that they were able to do that with the quality level. It's such a weird sci-fi universe. And for them to have made it palatable for like a mass audience, even if it's not for everybody, I mean, like it still was a massive movie, got a lot of attention, got a lot of nominations at award time. So like, yeah, Ranma 1/2, funny ass anime. Hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Like they managed to. It took me no time at all to see exactly why that show is as popular as it was back in the 90s and in the 80s. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Great pick. I really only finished 2 games last year. One of them was Trails. This was the other one. Infinite Wealth is basically more of the last game, little less grounded in like what it attempts, like some of the things that it's going for, but still no less good. I dropped a good 10 to 15 hours just fucking around with that Animal Crossing version of Dondoko Island.
I heard people talk about that.
It was so addicting, creating my own little perfect resort island for people to visit. I loved it. TCG Card Shop Simulator. I spent a lot of time. Every now and again, a sim game will grab me. They'll be like, here's a cool variation on a sim, and you see if you like it. I did like that, running my own shop, selling effectively Pokemon cards to the masses, making sure that the place is respectable, places for people to, duel and play games, and making sure that like if you stank in that bitch, you get spread off so people aren't like turned off by. I thought that was a wild inclusion, but it was pretty funny. Enshrouded, great game. I bought that game on a whim. I had seen the trailer. I think me and Rakeem talked about it a little bit, not a lot. And I was like, man, do I want this game? Do I not want this game? Bought it, played the fuck out of it at the start of the year, came back to it towards the end of the year, dumped another 10 to 15 hours into it. And there's still so much more of that game for me to do. It's a little, sandbox games are a little weird for me because I'm not the most creative person when it comes to building houses and shit like that. But I still enjoy the core gameplay loop of that game. And then the last 2 things I'm going to say real quick. It was seeing Brian Danielson win the AEW title finally after like 5 years, 3 years of being there. That was a really great moment. It felt like a great cap off to his career. I wasn't around for all of his career, but I did, like, when I got into wrestling, I saw WrestleMania 30 where he won the big one over at WWE, and then to see him have to be forced to retire only to get a chance to come back and have basically a whole other career full of fucking classic matches, full of beloved title reigns. And this was another one. It was short but sweet. We're not gonna talk about how he lost it. I'm not too big a fan of that part, but I think that's how he wanted to go out. And I think that's the important part. But seeing him win it was really cool. Connected to that, the Hangman Swerve feud and where that went. Oh man, what a fucking ride.
Awesome.
That was a feud.
The back half of that was fucking nuts. Seeing Swerve rise from like basically just a tag champion and a guy that like, okay, he's cool, but he's just basically mid-card, upper mid-card, to him becoming basically one of the faces of AEW, getting the title, becoming the first black AEW world champion, only to see him have to come face-to-face with the guy that he screwed over multiple times to get put in that position, Hangman Adam Page. Seeing that fight and seeing like how much Hangman changed over it, because he's effectively a different person now than he was when he started with the company, and it's almost entirely because of Hangman Page. You got some great promos out of that. You got some great story moments. You got him burning Swerve's house, literally, which is great because like he had kept saying, I'm going to burn his world to the ground. And then eventually he literally did that. And then like that final fight, grimy as fuck, violent as fuck. One of the most violent wrestling matches you'll ever see in your life. Lots of spots that if you're not really comfortable with seeing people get fucked up, I wouldn't recommend you watch it. But if you do have the stomach for the violence, it's such a great, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like a visceral match and like so emotional at the end. Really great shit. So yeah, I think that's all of my, well, not all, but like most of my favorite things of 2024. I think that's going to wrap this week up. If you like this episode, do me a, you know what you got to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends about us, and do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.
Happy 2025, everybody.
Yes, sir.